Is clean coal even a possibility or just a canard? The question matters because if President Obama succeeds in passing his cap-and-trade energy plan, which would force nasty polluters like the companies that supply you with electricity to pay for their carbon emissions, everybody who burns coal will either have to clean up their act or pay through the nose.
The House of Pain.
I've never really bought into the idea of clean coal. We've done a ton of stories about this on the show. On page A12 of today's Wall Street Journal, there was a great article about how difficult and expensive it is to try and make cleaner coal. Forget clean coal. It's not a reality. The article talked about one plant in particular, Wisconsin Energy's. That's WEC for all you home gamers. It was the Pleasant Prairie Coal Plant, which burns 13,000 tons of Powder River Basin coal, which is relatively cleaner than the stuff they pull out of Appalachia daily. Wisconsin Energy has a new pilot project that used chilled ammonia to try and capture the CO2 emissions from burning coal. In the lab, the process could capture 90% of the carbon dioxide. Sounds great, right? But in the actual application, the company managing the test said that the project is only grabbing about 1% of the greenhouse gases released at the plant and still consumes too much energy to be effective. According to the article, Wisconsin Energy's plant, which is one of the cleanest coal plants in the country, still spits out as much CO2 annually as 1.7 million cars. Doesn't sound promising to me. Of course, Wisconsin Energy is doing other things to reduce its carbon footprint, as the state of Wisconsin has passed a law requiring that 8.5% of retail electricity sales must come from renewable sources by 2015. The company completed the largest wind farm in Wisconsin in 2008, ahead of schedule and under budget. It has a capacity of 1.765 megawatts. WEC also acquired a second wind site in east central Wisconsin and expects to have a wind farm with the capacity to generate between 130 and 200 megawatts online by 2012. WEC is also investing in more gas-fired units, seeking regulatory approval to build 50 megawatts of biomass generation. At the same time, it intends to retire 116 megawatts of coal capacity from 2 generating units by the end of 2012. I don't know about you, but this thing is just, it is just every day in the news. Clean coal, cleaner coal. Is it even feasible? Is it just a pipe dream? And for that, there's no better person to talk to than Gail Clapp, the CEO of Wisconsin Energy. Mr. Clapp, welcome to Mad Money. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. A big spring booyah from the Heartland,
On your way. And when we talked to you last time, I mean, you guys are doing terrifically, and I thought that this was, well, first let me ask you, this coal hard facts, was it an accurate story, the one in the Journal?
Yes, I thought the story in the Journal today was very well done, very balanced, very accurate.
Well, that means to me that we are really far away from clean coal, aren't we?
Well, a couple of thoughts for you, Jim. First of all, we are burning coal cleanly. The air in the United States today is cleaner than it's been in any time in the past 50 years. Companies like ours have been able to add new technology like scrubbers for sulfur dioxide, and literally 50% of the nation's electricity is coming from coal today and delivering that coal-produced electricity in a cleaner way than it's ever been. The issue now has turned to CO2, and it has never been classified even as a pollutant before. So, Jim, there's no mass widely available technology today to be able to capture CO2, and that's what our experiment is all about. My own personal guess is we're 10 to 12 years away from having the technology that would be in widespread use that could capture CO2. But given time and given the research and development activities like we're undertaking today, I really think we can get there with CO2, and Jim, we have to.
Right.
Solar is great if the sun is shining. Wind is terrific if the wind is blowing.
Right.
But coal and nuclear and natural gas are the backbone of the nation's electricity supply, and we simply have to have, as you know, a reliable supply for a digital economy.
You have been at the forefront of different technologies. You're obviously not an ideologue. You're trying to keep the energy clean. It's been a Wisconsin mandate, so it's not like some coal state where, you know, the mandate is the heck with the country, we're producing coal. Is the president's cap-and-trade program too onerous as it's currently configured?
As it's currently configured, Jim, it would be hugely expensive. And these numbers are not coming from us, but coming from studies done by MIT and even the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. As currently configured, the Obama plan, which would tax every single ton of CO2 emitted by any company, whether that be a utility, whether that be a manufacturing company, could raise electric rates by between 40 and 56%. And frankly, with the economy as fragile as it is, I think that the early years of this plan are way too draconian. So we would suggest essentially that if public policy moves toward reduction of CO2 in a big way, that we be given the time, 10 years, to build new nuclear, to build clean coal technology with carbon capture, and we can do that, I believe, in a way, if given the time, that will not place a terrific burden on the economy.
But I was concerned, why is it that in the lab something works so well and then in reality it didn't?
Well, I'm not ready to give up on this experiment.
Okay.
In fact, that's why we're doing this experiment. This particular technology, using chilled ammonia almost as a magnet, and a magnet that would attract CO2, worked extremely well in the lab. And we're working the bugs out. This is the first time it's ever been scaled up to operate on a power plant in the field producing electricity. So we knew there would be bugs in the early going, and there have been, but we're working out those bugs, and I think the technology still has real potential.
All right, one last question, because, I work at CNBC. I don't want to be too hard on the president, 57th day and everything, but I've been trying to bring this up, that this is actually whatever the middle class might be able to save on a tax cut could be obliterated for those who have the misfortune of getting a lot of their utility energy from coal. That's true, isn't it?
Well, unfortunately, the costs would be very, very steep in the early going if the details aren't worked out right. And, Jim, I have one other concern. China, which has opened, by the way, a new coal-fired power plant on average every 10 days for the last 3 years, if China is not willing to tackle their CO2 emissions, anything we can do on the margin in the United States won't be helpful.
All right, that's great. Glenn, Gail, you have been terrific, and Wisconsin has been you've just been a great stock to own, best in the utility business. So far, they've all been hit except for yours, really. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Jim, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, that's Gail Clapper. He's the chairman, president, and CEO of Wisconsin Energy, perhaps the most forward-looking energy company in the country. And now you have heard that the clean coal situation is still not viable. Stay with Cramer.